Welcome back to the Metro on WDET. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. And yesterday, President Trump announced 25% tariffs on auto imports. This time, he says they're permanent. That includes autos coming from Canada. And the White House says tariffs on car parts from Canada and Mexico might be assessed later than the April 2nd deadline the White House has set. This morning, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney condemned the trade war, saying that tariffs are a direct attack on Canada. Many economists and auto industry experts expect Detroit's economy to be hit especially hard by the tariffs. That goes for Windsor, too. Many of us have spent a lot of time in Canada. We know Canadians, and we understand how our two economies are inextricably linked. This trade war has been mounting for weeks, and it's impacting how our Canadian neighbors view their relationship with the United States.
That's right, Tia. We've heard from at least one Canadian here on the Metro recently about how this is changing dynamics in Canada. Lucan Way is a distinguished professor of democracy at the University of Toronto. He told us in February he had never witnessed such strong Canadian nationalism before.
Walk down the street, you see handmade signs, by businesses that say, we don't sell American fish, we don't sell American products. I mean, this is incredible, the kind of grassroots, it's all completely organic from above, handwritten signs. I mean, this is something that sort of has shocked everyone, I think, here. Of course, it's not, Canadians are usually just very polite and mild mannered and constantly saying sorry when they shouldn't say sorry and the like. So this is, completely transformed this country.
So this has us all wondering, how are folks just across the river in Windsor taking this? WDET's All Things Considered host and senior news editor Russ McNamara crossed the border to find out. He joins us now. Russ, welcome back to the Metro.
Hey, everybody. Crossed the border multiple times.
Welcome back to the States.
Yeah.
Multiple times, because you did talk to over a dozen people, which we will
I tried
get into.
Everybody was super, super nice. They're just like, no. It's like, do you like, what do you think? They're like, and they would tell me what they think. And then they're like, and I have a microphone, and they're like,
So it was a little challenging.
It was a little challenging.
We got to start with a quick recap, though, first of what's happening. Could you remind us exactly what Trump has been saying about Canada and how Canadian leaders have responded?
Well, Trump keeps talking about annexation. He wants to make Canada the 51st state. And strangely enough, Canadians are not for that.
Shocking.
Yeah, and most Canadians, I should say. But it's not even what I'd consider a healthy contingent that want to be the 51st state at all. But Trump keeps talking about them like they're little brothers. He referred to Justin Trudeau, the now former Prime Minister of Canada, as governor. Right. Just highly disrespectful. But much like the whole Greenland mess, Canada is important for materials, minerals, and when it comes to national security, because they won't admit it, but the polar ice caps are melting, and now things are going to be more open in the northern climates as well. So, yeah, it's not a great situation.
Before we get into things a little bit more, could we quickly discuss when you crossed the border? I'm curious about your experience with Canadian Border Patrol. Was it just like business as usual, or did you sense some shade from Canadian officials as an American crossing over?
None at all.
Okay.
No. It's mostly indifference. In fact, the first time I went over, I just used my regular license. It's not even an enhanced license. And the guy's like, yeah, come on in. I mean, I had my passport with me, and he's like, yeah, you're fine. He's like, why are you here? He's like, oh, okay, great.
One of you. All right.
But I mean, that's been every single trip I've ever had crossing the border, whether it's Windsor or Sioux, Canada. They don't care. I actually kind of got hassled a little bit more and on the way back the first time.
Yep.
And it's just like, listen, buddy, it's like, where's home for you? It's like Ferndale. And he was like,
Where's really home for you?
Where's Ferndale? And yeah, exactly. It's like, what do you mean, man? I was like, come on. I've got Michigan plates. I've got a Michigan license. I've got a U.S. passport. Like, what are we doing here?
Okay, so you made it across the border unscathed, and you spent some time.
They didn't even find the eggs in my trunk.
Stop.
You know what? Let's take that. Please wipe that from the record.
Wait, sorry about that. Yeah.
So you spent some time just observing the mood, the feel of things, and talking to folks, as we journalists love to do. One person you spoke with is Reno Bordelin. He's a former Windsor city councilor, and he owns Petrella's, a sandwich shop in the Ford City neighborhood.
Myself, I cross over often. We've got season tickets to Detroit City FC soccer over there quite a bit with friends, family. So I'm trying to separate the people versus what's happening at the government level, but it is very difficult.
Russ, Reno isn't alone. Crossings from the Canadian border into the U.S. are down. How much have those crossings decreased?
Oh, by quite a bit. I mean, they were down by about 400,000 last month. I mean, that's like 18,000 cars a day. I mean, that's quite a bit. We haven't seen that since the early stages of the pandemic. So that's huge for cross-border trade. Now, semi-trucks still cross the border with frequency, but we're talking about tourism. We're talking about people just coming over for fun. Right. Brian Massey, member of Parliament for Windsor West, he told me a story about how his daughter and her partner tried to come over on Valentine's Day, got stuck at the border, pulled over, questioned for about 4 hours, then missed their dinner reservation over here. Wow. So they're feeling it.
Right. We're going to hear more about what Brian Massey had to say a little bit later. I want to stay for a moment, though, on Reno Bordelin. I'm wondering if his sandwich shop has taken a hit business-wise, how things are going.
No, not really. Business-wise, things are going fairly well. Business has been steady. They didn't get a ton of Americans anyway, and Ford City's kind of off the beaten path. It's further down. Think of Ford City of where the tip of Belle Isle starts when it comes to in relative to downtown Detroit and downtown Windsor. Okay. So it's a little off the ways. But things were just starting to pick up overall because people hibernate during the winter, and it's springtime, so people are coming out of the house and they're walking around the neighborhood again.
Russ, you also spoke with another person in the food and beverage industry. Her name is Sarah Dewar, and she's the owner and sommelier at a wine and cocktail bar in Windsor called Maiden Lane.
You talk to the Canadians, and they're acutely aware of what's going on. We're all a little bit sensitive over, the threats of annexation, tariff, trade wars, etc. You talk to the Americans, and I feel like they don't all really know what's going on. And that's not to say that they're not paying attention, but I think as Windsorites living on a border city, we pay attention to what's going on in Detroit, whereas Detroit doesn't necessarily pay attention to what's going on over here.
As briefly as you can, Russ, we know there's a movement in Canada to support Canadian businesses and products and to boycott American ones. Has this put Sarah into a tough position? Yeah,
it kind of has because, people are like, well, you should boycott all things American. And you're a bar owner. You've got, the bar stocked with what you have. And a lot of that includes, bourbons from Kentucky and Tennessee. And you just can't switch in an instant like that. So she says they've taken some heat because, people are like, well, why are you still serving this? Even though they've already made a pivot to, put more cocktails on the menu that includes Canadian whiskeys.
You're listening to The Metro. I'm Robin Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. We're talking about how people in Windsor are feeling about President Trump's trade war and his threats to annex Canada. Our guest is WDET's All Things Considered host and senior news editor, Russ McNamara. Okay, Russ, so the business owners in Windsor you spoke with are taking a measured tone. It sounds like they're really trying to stay hopeful, which is the Canadian way, and separate the American people from the government, as the sandwich shop owner and former city council member Reno Bordelin said. The current politicians have a different tenor. So can we talk a little bit more? Because you talked a little bit about Brian Massey. So let's talk about what Brian Massey had to say.
I think we're in a hurtful space right now. Canadians are really, taking the threats of 51st state to heart. We view it as an insult as much as it is a sovereignty issue. And it's unfortunate because we've had such great relations over the years. Even during times when we disagreed, there was a real spirited attempt to make sure that both our countries had respect for the positions that we had.
And Russ, how has this been affecting Brian Massey's work as a member of parliament? Is he trying to pass more Canadian-centered policies, for example?
Well, I mean, everything's in flux right now because they're getting set for an election next month. Because liberals are riding high. The Conservative Party was set to take over and, install their prime minister. Well, everything's been in flux since this happened. Everything's been turned upside down with the Liberal Party riding high. So they want elections now. And, instead of Conservatives dominating, it looks like the Liberal Party might be all right. Now, that's actually affecting Brian Massey. He is, a member of the new Democratic Party, and they've been losing support because people have been going to the Liberal Party because they're riding this wave of nationalism and good vibes in trying to push out the Conservative Party. One thing for him, he's disappointed. You can tell in his voice that, everybody knows that, Canada is like America Junior and, little brother status, whether we want to admit it or not. And that doesn't, we don't, when Sarah Dewar says, we don't care as much about Windsor as Windsor cares about us, that is 100% true. Yeah. And so, and now this whole disrespect is really coming into the limelight where, we're just going to make you a state. And that is super insulting. And Brian Massey had been working to take a stretch of park in Windsor across from Zug Island and make it a national urban park. And they were set to vote on that, but now with the elections happening, that's been kind of tabled a little bit. Because, he's highly concerned about environmental issues and how things work out with the Great Lakes Compact and the sustainability and keeping the Great Lakes clean. And now, because of the policies of the Trump administration, again, that is all messed up.
Now, just next door to the Parliament member's office is a travel agency called Valenti Travels. And you popped in there just to see how Trump's trade war and his rhetoric is affecting people's travel plans. We just talked a little bit about that. So here's travel agent Melanie Harden.
Within the bookings that we had, we have some cancellations as well. So some people feel strongly about it, where others, are still willing to travel. I will tell you, I'm traveling myself this weekend over there. I'm not going to put it on hold, but I do see probably about 50% of people putting those U.S. trips on hold.
So Melanie is keeping her travel plans to the U.S. Did she say why?
Yeah, it was her anniversary.
Oh,
she's going to New Orleans. She's like, I'm not giving that up I'm not putting that on hold for anybody.
Laissez bon temps brûlé.
Yeah.
Seriously, though,
Thank
she knows
you.
what's up. She knows.
And Melanie was a trip herself. She was fantastic. Really warm because I just walked in there. I was like, hey, ladies, are people canceling trips to the U.S.? And they're all like, oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
So she had just gotten off the phone with a big golf group. They always go to the U.S. for a big golf trip. And they canceled. They didn't want to go anymore.
And that directly impacts her business.
It impacts their business, but she was able to reschedule. Okay. They're going to some place in Canada. Okay. However, there's a whole bunch of places in the United States that is going to see impact. Not everybody's going to be making anniversary trips to New Orleans. Some of those anniversary trips to Las Vegas or, to Hilton Head, North Carolina might be canceled.
But there is a Windsorite, right? There we go. Yeah. Get that right. Edward Szymanski. When you asked him about the U.S. annexing Canada, he simply said,
"Sure, why not?"
A man of a few words there. Sure, why not?
Sure, why not? So Edward Szymanski isn't bothered by all of this, but hundreds of people who showed up last weekend for a cross-border protest along Detroit's riverfront and on the Windsor side seemed like a unique event, a cross-border protest. Can you remember another demonstration like that where you saw both sides of the river coming together?
Coming together, maybe not. No, there was the trucker protest, a couple of years ago when they were protesting restrictions and having to wear masks and vaccinations following the pandemic that kind of shut down the Ambassador Bridge for a while. Those sides weren't necessarily, there was counter protesters as well. And this one, everybody was in a good mood. I mean, you look across the river and down there with the big flag at the end of Lett Avenue, people were protesting on the Windsor side. It wasn't even a protest. I mean, there was some anti-Trump signage, as it were, but it was just a show of support. People were like, "I love Canada."
Yeah.
I mean,
And Russ, before we let you go, just briefly, you spoke with more than a dozen people. So how many were actually upset or somehow affected by Trump's policies and rhetoric? What was the overall tone there?
They don't like it. I mean, they don't personally like him as a leader. And they've, much like Americans, they've seen this act before. And, they were disappointed in Americans for voting him in. They're disappointed in him for trying to make Canada a 51st state and being highly disrespectful. And they are backing their own leadership, their own government in Canada 100% and coming out in full force. Ontario Premier Rob Ford said today that they're going to put, because of the tariffs, they're going to put as much pain on the American people as possible while putting the least amount of pain on Canadians as possible. And this is a huge step up in the rhetoric that we've heard. Former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is like, hey, man, we're sorry. Nobody wants this. We apologize to the American people. However, Donald Trump is a threat of annexation, and we believe him 100% when he says he wants to make Canada the 51st state.
Russ McNamara is a senior news editor with WDET and the host of All Things Considered. Russ, as always, thank you so much for your reporting, and thanks for joining us on the Metro.
You guys are great.
Coming up at 11, introverts might be surprised, but there's research that suggests talking to strangers can actually make you happier. We'll get into it. And the number is 313-577-1019. This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation.